Today on the Response to COVID-19 program, we take a look at the temperature of the tourism industry in Tobago and how the industry will rebuild post-COVID-19. I'm Vidya Ramphal. Thanks for joining us on TDT and TDT Online. Now, our guest today, one of the statements I've heard from him in the past is people need to understand the importance of tourism in Tobago. He is Mr. Chris James, the president of the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association. Great to have you on with us, Mr. James. Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening to all of your guests.
All right. Thanks for having us, being with us, as I mentioned. Now, let me read you something that this was a quote from an article written in February, and it was talking about the 8.2% increase in visitor arrivals over 2018. It said, the upward trend looks set to continue in 2020, with arrival figures already indicating a continued upward trajectory in stayover arrivals for the island. Does that not sound very, very strange right now, considering it's only 4 months ago?
It's painful to hear that now, yes. We had the Sunwing flight from Canada, which has made a difference to our arrivals, which we were pleased about, of course. But no, since COVID-19 has hit us, most of the hotels have been closed since mid-March, and we are gradually reopening now.
Yes, it has. COVID-19 has absolutely turned the world over in terms for tourism in Tobago. But before COVID-19, just to take you back to that a little bit there, what were some of the main issues that the Tobago tourism industry was grappling with? Because things were not absolutely rosy at that point either.
No, well, tourism in Tobago has been on the decline for more than 10 years, actually. Our international arrivals have gone from a high of 80,000 down to around 20. We hover around 20,000, mainly because of the lack of focus on tourism, lack of investment in tourism. And we have not had the actual infrastructure investment. We've not had the new hotels and the things that the other islands in the region have had. So that's been a detrimental part of what's been going on in Tobago. We were just about starting to turn the corner. I know there's a move now to increase investment. So hopefully, then we were on an upward slide increase, but now we've got to start all over again because of COVID. And it's going to be a slow start. All indications are, I've just finished a webinar with CHTA, and it looks like it's going to be a slow recovery back to some kind of normality in the next year or two.
In terms of recovery, when you talk about past pandemics, it's usually taken about 6 or 7 months, some have estimated. Some of the experts say 6 or 7 months or so for recovery. Is that going to be happening this time, or is it going to take a longer period because of this unprecedented pandemic?
Well, we're hoping first to attract the domestic market, the Trinidadian market, to come to Tobago. So that should soften some of the hardship that we're dealing with now. As for international travel, because our second intention was to go regional, but that is also now questionable with some of the islands opening and getting COVID cases. So that is something we have to look at as we move forward. International, I mean, we do have, I see a notice from Virgin hoping to come back in October. I think it's October the 4th. It really is dependent both on this country opening its borders and the other countries opening their borders or reducing quarantine periods for any growth in international travel. When you look at not just pandemics, but when you look at things like 9/11 or the crash of 2008, it's actually taken 18 months to 2 years at least to recover from those things. So we don't expect a fast recovery. We have to take this time to rebuild our focus on tourism in Tobago and retrain our staff, and hopefully as many people survive this as possible so that we can open gradually but hopefully successfully.
Yes, okay, definitely. Now let's go back into the pandemic and how things unfolded during the past few months. By March of this year, during an interview, you had said that you believe that the hotels, guest houses were 99% closed and more were expected to shut down on the way. So it was pretty much total closure in March, around March this year.
Yes, it was, and it maintained that closure for most of the 3 months. We were only open for essential guests. If people needed overnight accommodation, health workers or essential workers, then we could open for those. Of course, it wasn't just hotels, it was restaurants and bars, everything was affected. Of course, all the tours, the reef boat operators, all of those things were affected badly, still affected at the moment. We are seeing some gradual opening. We've had some interest from Trinidad, to Tobago, and it's growing, but it's slow. We have the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association have our own marketing tool called tobagolime.com, and we have it populated now, and people are inquiring. They're certainly looking at the site, but bookings are coming in slowly.
Well, it's good to hear you say that the bookings are coming in slowly, and that's a positive statement coming because in April this year, when you were analyzing the way things were going, you had said that the tourism industry was virtually dead. Things were really, really looking desperate at that point.
They were, and for many, they still are. I mean, this has been a harsh thing. As I say, we came into this weak financially because of our low occupancy. We were averaging just around 30% occupancy, and our relatively low rates compared with the region. Rates and occupancy in the region is averaged twice what we have in Tobago over the last 4 or 5 years. So we came into it financially weak, and of course this will have just made things much worse. Yeah. So it's been a very, very difficult time and continues to be for the majority of business places on the island.
Well, one of the possible solutions, which you did talk about in May during an interview, was the need for government intervention. In fact, you said that Tobago tourism cannot survive without government intervention. There was something of a 500 million fund facility at that point. Have the benefits from that, have you started to see that happening yet?
It was actually $50 million for an upgrade program. Which paperwork is going in now. That will take some time to filter through. But what we really needed, and what we still need, we needed operational costs for when we were closed, because even when a hotel's closed, there are still costs, security, there are still utility costs. You have to keep the place clean and different things like this. The garden is kept. So those costs. Of course, we were happy to get the grants for the employees, but it's been very slow in coming out, and that's been a major concern for us on the island. Many of our hotels are saying that their hotel workers have not received the grant. But we also now need, and I still maintain we need it, is a 6-month period of opening before we can start paying things like utility bills. Until we get some revenue coming in, because we have another factor that's happened that's affected everybody in the region, but also the world, that a lot of the tour operators have not paid outstanding bills to hotels. So there's what we call financial contagion. They have not paid us, so we have suppliers in Tobago that we cannot pay. And it's a vicious circle that is going to take some time to come out of. And even with the Trinidadian traffic that we hope to get, and we really want people to come here, it's going to take some time. So we hope that loans, utility bills, everything would have been deferred for 6 months of operation, where we could have got our feet back on the ground and then been in a position to start paying these bills.
Yeah, certainly, as you have described there, a vicious cycle certainly operating in Tobago. Is there any estimate at this point as to how bad the losses have been? Because it's been, the estimates we've been hearing have been pretty damning. From your point of view, how bad have been the losses?
I heard the CEO of the Tobago Tourism Agency say that it was $80 million was lost for the 3-month period. But of course, this is going to be a longer period than 3 months. So the losses will be greater than the $80 million. It's impossible to say at this stage because we do not know when the borders will be open. Even when they are open, we don't know how many international travellers will be coming to the region. We've heard statistics of 60% drop in international travel. And we know that the Trinidad market cannot be enough to satisfy the demand of business that we need in Tobago. So at the moment, there are too many unknowns to know what the losses will be ultimately.
Well, we'll be speaking some more about the reopening of Tobago with Chris James, the president of the Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association, coming up after this short break. Welcome back to the Response to COVID-19 program. Chris James is on with us of the Tobago Hoteliers Association, and we're chatting about the reopening in this segment of the tourism sector in Tobago. Now, Chris, thanks for staying on with us. Reopening, you described in the last segment that things are starting to look up a little bit. People are making bookings, but at this point, what are some of the preparations that you have made to welcome back visitors to Tobago?
Well, we just completed a whole exercise with the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association, which gives the protocols for health and safety with a checklist and also training. So that's been very welcome by the members. It covers all aspects, not just accommodation, but transport and tours and the whole gambit. There are going to be challenges because with the social distancing, again, this is a worldwide problem. Restaurants and bars are going to find it difficult to make money because obviously the capacity is reduced. But we're hoping that 2-meter distance is reduced in time so that we can get back to some normality and become profitable. And of course, we need guests to do that. So there are many challenges ahead. We're doing what we can. We're trying to stay as positive as possible. We're doing all we can in our marketing with our TobagoLime.com advertising. We're hoping that people gravitate towards, the people in Trinidad gravitate towards Tobago so that they can escape their lockdown in Trinidad and come and enjoy the beauty of Tobago. And that will help us get over this. And then as soon as we can, as soon as it's safe to do so, we want the borders open. But of course, that has to be judged on medical and scientific advice.
Well, if I were not doing this program right now, I would have been on a plane to Tobago. I'll reassure you of that. But in terms of the domestic market, Trinidadians who come across to Tobago, how large is the market when you compare in terms of a percentage of what Tobago earns from tourism?
It's difficult to put a cost to it, but in terms of numbers, in terms of occupancy numbers, in recent years, it's been as high as 70% of our occupancy over the year. So it is very important. The problem with the market, and we're hoping this can change this year because of the way things have rolled out, is that it comes for very specific times, which is July and August and Easter and all of those times that we know historically have been busy with Trinidadian visitors, people from Trinidad visiting Tobago. What we're hoping to do is stretch that, and we hope to invite people and encourage people to come in September, October, until we know that the borders are open. And we'll be welcoming them through the year, but we certainly need them to come and help us survive this up until the borders are open. So it is, as I say, up to 70% in the last few years has been put down to Trinidadian visitors.
Yes, so 70%, that sounds about right. But the prospects of improving international travel in the future, what would you say to that particular part of the equation?
Well, I think from an international point of view, especially after such a thing as COVID, Tobago is an ideal destination. It's green, it's not a mass tourism destination. In listening to many of the webinars that are coming on now, people are not looking for the massive all-inclusive hotels. They really want space. We have the greenery, we have the nature. Health tourism is a major thrust at the moment. People want healthy, good food, and healthy living, and I think we can offer all of those things in Tobago. It's just getting that message out there strong enough so that we can encourage those people who would have gone to other destinations to come here. And that's what we're working on. We're looking at all those avenues that are now very prominent in people's minds. We know from our campaign, the Tobago Lime campaign, that people are looking. They're not necessarily booking, but they are looking at the ads. And all the indications are Facebook and all the social media. There's tremendous amount of traffic looking at destination. So it's important we get ready, and hopefully, if Virgin BA and Condor and Sunwing come back, then we will be very pleased. Of course, at the moment, the international tourism situation, the industry, at this moment, we don't even know which airlines are going to survive. We don't know what tour operators are going to survive. So there's still a lot of uncertainty, but we have to be hopeful, as we said it earlier. In the past, when things have looked very grim, they have rebounded. Everybody said that nobody would travel after 9/11, especially with all the new security measures. And 18 months later, the numbers were higher than ever. So tourism is a very resilient industry, and I believe we can come back. But we have to do the marketing, and we have to get the investment into the island so that we can really showcase what Tobago has to offer, which is a pristine, beautiful island, welcoming, and ready for everybody to come and enjoy and relax.
I'm glad you talked about the investment in the island, because with the budget presentation by the Assemblyman Jack earlier this week, he spoke about tourism as one of the critical areas that stimulus and support would have been introduced. Your impressions of the budget itself and how much effect it will have on tourism?
The budget that the THA presents is really what they really want. As you know, we always get a budget that's roughly 50% of what is asked for. So what is more important to us is what they actually get and how that is going to be spent. The importance of tourism cannot be underestimated in a destination like Tobago. It can give the economies of scale to so many different industries and services on an island like Tobago. With a population of 60,000, 65,000, it's very difficult for many businesses to get the economies of scale to survive. But we can give those economies of scale to the farmers and the fishermen, to all the service industries, the distribution people. And that's why tourism is such an important player in most countries. Because not only is a big generator of foreign exchange, can create all those economies of scale that are needed in an island like Tobago, to create those sustainable businesses, where ultimately we don't have to keep going to Trinidad for so many things, because it will be possible to do them here and make money at them. And that's the ultimate goal of the association, and that's what we would wish to happen in the shortest possible time. And tourism is the main economic driver on this island, supporting many other economic drivers that become economically viable.
Right, that's in the short term, what you would like to see. But in terms of the long-term prospects, will there be anything in the future to suggest that Tobago will go back to those 80,000 visitors that you talked about earlier?
We can do it if we get the financing and we get the will to do it. I believe this is the time to do it. As you know, as a country, I keep hearing that gas and oil revenues are dropping and stocks are depleting. Therefore, we do have to kind of look at alternatives. We have to diversify this economy. I've been here for 25 years and I've been hearing that, but maybe this is the time to do that. Don't forget, we actually create many jobs in Trinidad from the tourism industry, because the manufactured goods that we buy, the bulk of the dollars that come in, stay in the country. That is not so in most of these other regional destinations. So it works for both Trinidad and Tobago. If Tobago is a strong tourism destination, we can create jobs in Trinidad through the manufacturing sector. And all of that has to be taken into account when money is given to different sectors, so that we can get our fair share to actually reach the potential that I believe Tobago has.
It's a symbiotic relationship, but sometimes you get the feeling that one side does not understand that clearly enough. But Mr. James, thank you very, very much for joining us today and to sharing your insights into the state of the tourism industry in Tobago and the prospects of a recovery. Thanks again. So we want to say thanks to Chris James for chatting with us today, and we wish him and the members of his association the best for the future. Now, for continued coverage, remember you can join us on TTT, Talk City 91.1 FM, Suite 100, Next 99.1 FM, as well as on Facebook at TTT Live Online for all your COVID-19 updates. Thanks for joining us for the Response to COVID-19 program. I'm Vidya Ramphal. Bye for now. Have a wonderful weekend.